Hello and welcome to the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast, hosted by EFT trainers Michael Barnett, Dr. Sylvina Irwin, and EFT supervisor Michael Preston. We are excited to bring you this first season of the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast, Foundations, where Michael, Sylvina, and Michael will be breaking down the fundamental elements of EFT, helping to build your confidence as an EFT clinician.
Hello and welcome back to the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast. As always, I'm Michael Preston, along with my co-hosts, Dr. Sylvina Irwin and Michael Barnett. How are you all doing?
Good.
Yeah,
It's
doing
good to
well.
be here.
Doing well. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy
Good to
Friday.
be with you all as always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I just want to say I'm really excited for you all getting to go to Mexico and bring your addiction work that has been so profound and incredible for the EFT community, Michael. But also that there's we were talking before, there's a little bit of downtime in there for you all
Yes.
too. That
Yeah.
is so valuable to find.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
We're looking forward to it.
And really looking forward to being in the community,
Mhm.
Latino America. They have such a beautiful community, and we'll be reconnecting with Ali Barbosa Calderon. And I know Norma Brito is bringing in folks from Costa Rica, and lots of our friends and colleagues from around the world will be there. So very exciting to be in that community.
Yeah,
Oh, that's going to be wonderful.
it is.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to jump into today's topic, which we're going to carry on from last week. In our last episode, we're beginning our conversation about some of the challenges and the questions that people have around what are we doing in stage 2 and how can we find ways to talk about and clarify this. And we talked a little bit about move 1 and move 2. And move 1, just kind of getting the lay of someone's land using the old cycle and those moments, but really beginning to walk around their experience, begin to organize it. And a really helpful thing that came out of ours was beginning to look at the place where people often find it hard to share with their partner, that they couldn't turn to their partner. And we ask them that question around, could you imagine in these moments when all of these alarm bells are going off inside of you, ever turn to your partner? People are going to say, who does that? Right? I wouldn't do that. And right there's our place to really start to going, let's stay there, right? And we'll spend time with people. And that's really where we want to go to heighten. That's the beginning of our move 2.
Right.
And we stay there for quite some time in our sessions. I think, there's research around it, around 60%, 35, 40 minutes of our session, which is a lot of work on the therapist. Michael, you've always said this is where the therapist really has to tolerate a lot of emotion, right? All through move 2. And while we're working there, we were talking some last week about we're working to find those working models and to really bring them alive in the room. And then today we're going to what we're enacting. What are we going to bring from one partner to the other in terms of stage 2 enactments? Michael, you said stage 2, it's all about the reach. It just
All
lives
about the reach.
lives in my head. So that's going to be our conversation today. And we had some questions come forward, and they were just about like the main thing is what are we doing and how do we know we've done it enough? And that usually is the big question. So we're going to start off first by acknowledging not everybody here has gone through EFT training and not everybody is familiar with some of the terminology that we'll toss around. So the first place I just want to open up our conversation is kind of to ask both of you. We talk about a corrective emotional experience and we use that term and not everybody's taught from that term. Not everybody understands that term fully. So can we first start with that as this is kind of the big arching thing we're going for is a corrective emotional experience. And what is a corrective emotional experience?
That's a big question to take 2 steps even at a higher perspective. So much of what we're talking about in this series of podcasts is what is distinct about the moves of the tango stage 2 compared to stage 1. So the reason I say that at this juncture is the enactments we do are very distinct. And although when we're doing move 2 in stage 1, it is very emotional.
Very.
Right? We're helping people take new steps in the dance, and we're helping them actually identify and access the emotional narrative and the embodied, visceral experience of their emotions that primes their reactive step in the cycle. And then we find the hurting human there, right? There's a story there that doesn't get told.
That's
and
right.
they're very vulnerable feelings that don't get expressed. People shut down or they get loud.
Right.
but they don't express the vulnerability. But all of a sudden, we see the distress underneath that, and we're able to understand, oh, that's why you would lash out, or that's why you would shut down and go. So it decriminalizes and humanizes the action tendency. Some people refer to that emotional experience as a corrective emotional experience. And the distinction I think is really important for us to make here is the corrective emotional experience that we're really speaking about. And I think this holds true through some other models of psychotherapy is this is where the limbic revisioning happens. This is where literally neural networks change. What we know about EFT is one of the handful of models that works on memory reconsolidation. There is literally an overriding of previous neural networks, not just competing networks set up in the brain. So why is that important? Well, when people have that shift, the shift in the neural networks we're speaking to is where people hold the traumatic distress that influences very negatively their experience of themselves and their experiences of others, working model of self and working model of others. And these things define our entire lives. They put a very low ceiling if they're negative. We don't walk out into this complicated world where things can change in a moment's notice and feel as confident or resilient or safe or happy. And so we are using what's happening between significant others to have a doorway into the limbic system and create that kind of change in relationship based on how we understand attachment theory, that we change and we grow and we have these senses of self and other through our securely attached relationships. But if we haven't had that, it's going to be a massive risk because our brains are going to predict this is really going to go poorly. This is going to turn out the way it did the rest of my life, right? And so
Yeah.
we talk about the corrective emotional experience. It's not just going into your emotion that primes your step in the cycle. This is the thing that has primed the way you encounter your entire life. It's
Right.
that big. So that's what's happening in stage 2. Okay.
So can I say that? And you just make sure I've got this with you?
Yeah.
It's like stage one enactments are opening up new options in moments of distress for couples, right? I can feel this distress, but rather than having one option of protection, I now have a new option where I can reach for my partner in a different way. And while that's lovely to have new options, and that's what the enactment is showing and learning that I can lean in here, and this doesn't always have to go this really awful way, which is really nice to have more options, but it doesn't change the limbic system around how I feel in my sense of like who I am and how the world sees me and how I experience myself in the world or how I see
Exactly.
others. We're talking about, yeah.
It's the difference between a secure interaction.
Mm,
This is what is from the felt sense of security, we could map that's a secure interaction, but people are not living securely attached just yet.
I really like, that's just like, man, I love the way this, like, I'm just going, oh, that's so nice. Like, we are creating secure interactions where it's like, wow, you're able to do something really different that secure couples do. But it's not really changing like that deep limbic space. But
Right.
I love the difference between secure interactions and a real secure attachment.
It changes the way the cycle is organized, but not the way the self is
Yeah.
organized. And that's what we're doing in stage 2. We're changing the way the self is organized.
So I'd
Right?
love to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Sure. So just to build into what the two of you are naming, we're really setting up these opportunities to basically create a violation of expectation.
Yeah.
So
Love
everything in someone's being is saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't turn and reach because when I turn and reach, you're going to not like what you see, or you're going to leave me just like I was left, or you're going to reject me," right? Those are those internal working models that predict behavior.
Mhm.
And that's in the driver's seat, whether we're aware of it or not. That's what guides our behavior and our relational scripts. So once we've made that explicit in our stage 2 work, now we're creating an opportunity to bring that to a partner and to reach through that when
Mm.
everything is firing off saying, "Oh my gosh, this is scary. This is going to happen to me again." You create an opportunity to be met in that space and the exact opposite of
Mm.
what life has taught us will happen, all of our predictions are disconfirmed. That right there, that moment is a lived experience that disconfirms our expectations.
Mm.
And that's where that revisioning starts to happen, right? Because the brain cannot hold both experiences at once, right? So that's when things start to shift, right? We bring all of those fears up online and we create a moment where they can fundamentally live an experience that is different, right? So I
I
think
love
that's
that.
really Yeah.
I love disconfirm my expectations. That's a really,
That's
really
it.
great way to put it. Like my embodied expectations, not just
That's
what I
right.
think will happen between us in the cycle, but like the deeply held expectations I carry in my body.
That's exactly right,
Yeah.
because people will often say some version of, you know, "This is Michael. I know that he's a kind man, and if I were to turn and reach for him, my prefrontal cortex will say, I know that he's nice and he will respond to me." But you take me into that vulnerability and into that
Mm,
raw place where I feel so unworthy or scared, and I bring that forward. Holy cow, now it is like deeply embedded
mm,
infrastructure that's online that says, don't do it, don't do it, don't do
mm,
it. So I need to have that kind of a lived experience and have my partner show up for me in that fear that will then begin to rewire that. It's not a cognitive process, it's a lived experience.
mm,
I love the way that you again and again and again focused on the fear that really happens. Because last
Yeah.
time you spoke about attachment fears. And if you listeners had heard the last podcast, and maybe some of that was unclear, this is the place we're moving people into and move to. We want to bring those attachment fears alive. We want
Mm.
them to experience that because that means they are priming themselves to take the risk that could potentially create this different experience, this corrective experience. And it really is. So the reach it is really, really freaking scary.
mm.
It is really scary.
Like no risk, no reward kind of thing.
Yeah.
You have to really heighten the heck out of people. And it has to be very scary, which sounds a little sadistic. But
Yeah.
we also know that if people do not do that, then the way that they have organized their lives and their neural networks are organized will not change.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we have to move people into the attachment fears, and we're not creating anything new. They've been there for a lifetime usually,
Right.
right? But I really like the way you kept underscoring that again and again. The fears, the fears. This is scary.
Yeah.
It is really scary
And fear will block us every time.
every
Yeah.
time, and it's attempting to be protective. Like I know that you know
Of
what's going to
course.
hit the fan if I try this, so I'm not trying it. You know, my fear response is telling me back off. But we know that they have an engaged partner, and we know that that significant other can be the change agent, right?
Yeah.
If we do a really profound enactment,
Yeah.
nice stage 2 set of enactments.
Yeah.
And this is really where, EFT as an experiential therapy is on steroids,
Yeah.
right? It's in those move threes, right? We are
Yeah.
creating fundamentally new experiences in relationship, and
Yeah.
that's where the change is. They're not just talking their way through. It's not just like a couple's dialogue. That's very
Yeah.
cognitive.
Yeah. But I think it's kind of that Einstein quote. I think it's Einstein quote. I'm gonna
Exactly.
read. It's what is it?
All
All
knowledge
learning.
is experience.
Yeah. Yes. It's like all learning is experiential. Everything else is just not. Everything else. I
It's
know.
information. Just
Right. It's
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 information.
information.
information, right?
Right. But it's not learned. It's not
That's
embedded
right.
any and yet. And it is.
Yeah.
I like that you all was saying like part of this deal is that fear comes online and it says back up. It says, I
Yeah.
don't want you to come close to this. Right. I think
Right.
James talks about it really, James Hawkins
Yeah.
he'll say, what happens is if you try to if you try to enter the McDonald's on the corner, like no one's going to stop you. And, you can kind of walk around in the McDonald's, but you try to enter a vault bank, they're going to stop you. Right. And we're really entering the vault of people's lives here. Like what's been held very securely and very protected. And if people are
Yeah.
pushing back on it, he goes, you're knocking on the right door. Right. Because no one's going to
Yes.
stop you entering McDonald's, but you're not going to be able to walk right into a vault. Right. No,
Yes.
like, oh, that's helpful because I think, yeah, that fear is going to tell us to back up, right?
That's
And
right.
it's not going to let us in easy
And it does so for a reason. We
for
have
good reason.
learned from our experiences this is really going to go poorly. What we know as therapists, it's those limiting fears and the narratives that come along with them that really characterize and influence people's experience in life in terms of their sense of feeling a sense of value and worth in their bones and knowing that people will be there for them when they really need them and trusting that even as crazy as this world can get and sometimes as cruel as this world can get and unpredictable, we have a buffer
Mhm.
within our relationships that can help us feel solid and kind of maybe in the eye of the storm rather than getting caught in it,
Mm,
right? But we have to take these risks to get there, right? We have to do the reach.
right. Okay. So that when we talk about corrective emotional experience, right, we're not just talking about new behavior. New options,
Right.
like, can my partner be kind here? We're talking about how safe do I feel in the world? How held do I feel in the world? How worthy do I feel in this world? Do I really believe others will deeply, deeply be there for me in my moments of need?
Exactly.
This is a very different feeling for people, a very different experience, a very different way of being, not just way of behaving.
Exactly. And that's what's very unique about our model, that most couples therapies or marriage and couples therapies, and I know EFT is relegated to 3 modalities at this point. Most of them just stop once there's a form of de-escalation, however people get there. But we really go into what is depth psychotherapy. This is where
Mm,
we're getting into the wounds that people have
mhm,
carried, emotionally speaking and psychologically speaking, for a lifetime.
yeah,
And we use partners and family members and sometimes self of the therapist
mhm,
to create a different experience in vivo. But it has to be super intense or people don't buy it. It doesn't create change.
right. It doesn't have that lived experience of, like, if what you were saying, Sil, if my beliefs that love and care aren't coming is not online, then my body can't have a disconfirming moment, right? I have to believe, this is the place where no one's going to love me. And I really believe that if my partner saw me here, that there's no way they will see the ugly that I see. And in order for that to be a disconfirming moment, I really have to, like, experientially have that online.
Yeah.
And my partner has to obviously not confirm those old beliefs.
Right, right. That's where we're really invested in,
Yeah.
choreographing this moment to be
Right.
met in that risk that they're taking, in that reach.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so that's what we mean by our corrective emotional experience, what we're gaining from that, what we're the outcome of this moment. But let's now kind of shift to our other question here, which is, what do we need to grab hold of and what are we really trying to bring forward? So it's kind of what we're looking for in move 2 essentially, but what when we go to say, can you share that with your partner? Can you turn to them? Like when we send this enactment, what are we wanting to crystallize and send to the other person? Not
Do
everybody at once.
you
Well,
Let me
I
let
don't
me
know.
let me
Do
let
you
me
wanna
choreograph this
speak first?
better. Hey, Sil, will you start for us?
yeah, go for it,
You
babe.
take the lead on this?
Sure, sure. So, what we're enacting, if you will, in stage 2, it feels like there's sort of 2 main things that we're going for. As we're bringing up attachment fears, right? And in move 2 of the Tango, we're really bringing those fears up to a boil, and we're distilling working models, organizing and making explicit, again, what are those schemas that people carry that offer those predictions of, I'm unlovable, no one will love me in this place, my prediction is that someone is going to abandon me here, if I show this to you, you're going to leave me. Once we've really got that up and running, that's the enactment. We're enacting these, again, to use some very clinical language, we're enacting those disowned fears, those disowned parts of self, the stuff that we couldn't bring ourselves to look at. And they're disowned for a reason, right? They're pushed away from our consciousness for, it's pretty unbearable stuff, what people
Mm,
hold internally. So when we bring that forward, that's what we're enacting.
mm,
Can you tell your partner, in these moments, I'm so afraid that if I show you these parts of me, you're not going to like what you see and you may leave me. Like, that's my catastrophic fear.
mm,
So we're enacting those fears. Again, those working models are embedded there. And then the other thing that we're enacting, after we've really processed those fears and brought those forward and talked about those, the other thing that we enact in stage 2 are the needs
mm.
after we've gone through fears, right? So
Right.
first we enact fears and the working models that block reaching for contact, care, and comfort. All of that move to work. And then after we've done that, then we move into, so how can your partner help you when all of this comes for you? What do you need? And
Mm,
this is really the first time we're accessing and making explicit what those unmet attachment needs are. How can your partner help you? And can you let them know?
yeah.
So those are the 2 main things that we're enacting in stage 2 processes: the attachment fears, the things that get in the way of asking for your needs to be met, and then attachment needs. So how can you get some help here?
Yeah.
Those are the 2 main things that we're enacting.
And you can hear how different that is than a move 2. in stage one, where really what we're helping people do is find the emotional reality, which is the narrative and the embodied feelings of the meaning they make of their partner's step in the dance. It's very emotional work and it's very painful work as people find that. But I love that you kind of underscored the disowned parts of self.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're often bringing the unconscious alive here. People know it as a felt sense. So that first experience of us setting the stage with an imaginative reach, and people are getting so scared there, right? And we may just have them enact the fears, right?
Yeah.
It's a really powerful thing because they're starting to bump into, again, the reality that we have to keep in mind is that people have done usually dozens of enactments each by the
Yeah.
time we move them into stage two. And now someone can't enact. So what's that about?
Right.
It's really scary. Something else is coming alive, right? It's not the cycle. And so we have them talk to each other about those fears that I'm so scared, no one's really ever been there for me. And now we start hearing the working models. No one's ever been there, working model of other. And we're going to pivot to those things. And the trickiest piece about all of this is here are these two things that are very, very exclusively stage two enactments, but they have to be turbocharged to create change, right? We have to, like you were saying earlier, Michael, we have to have people heighten 60 something percent of a session. At least that's what research shows. That's really a lot of work for the therapist. I mean, it's a really incredible skill. So when we do like core skills, we have people practicing in role play for hours and hours, how to heighten, right?
Yeah.
You're relying on your reliance because we're taking people into Pandora's box and no one in the right mind wants to go there. And we've all got them. And then the other thing is we have to hold them there and help the narrative get clearer and clearer about the way I feel about myself, the way I don't trust that others are going to be there to catch me, and then heighten that experience. We open the door to that. We might even throw a few headlines in about people's histories to really connect the past with the present. And now people are in pretty heavy place. I call it the agony of Pandora's box. Therapists have to have the stomach for this because it's not sadistic. We know these are the limiting realities in people's psyches. And we're really creating, it's like, psychotherapy, change of the psyche here. So we bring people into this knowing that the overarching experience will be their partner's going to be there for them. And we'll talk about move forward next time. But this is heavy, heavy stuff.
Yeah.
This is like the heavy lifting of psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking through kind of a stage one, stage two, very different spots, right? So often in stage one, like we're enacting, we might enact fear, right? But it's not these fears. We're still going to heighten fear. Like I get so scared that we are going to do this thing and we're going to like injure each other so bad. We'll say words to each other that we can't take back and we can't unhear. That would be kind of a stage one, like, oh, I really fear the cycle that's going to take off. And so I hit the brakes, right? That's where withdrawal, I just hit the brakes because we're going to hurt each other here, right? In service of the relationship. But what we're naming here is what I really get afraid of is you're going to see me differently. Like who I am in your eyes will forever change. And what
The additional piece there, this is how, truth be told, and I don't tell anybody, even sometimes myself, this is how I see myself.
Right. That's what I said. Like, my fear is how I already see myself and how I already, truth be told, fear that you already do see me this way. Right.
That's right.
I show this to you and you're going to tell me, actually, yes, you are broken.
Yes.
Right.
That's
And that's scary. Or yes, actually, I've been meaning to tell you, you are too much. Right. That is the fear we're talking about now, which is that is a very few view of self in this world and how the most important person might look at this spot in me and say, yep, that's too dark. That's too ugly. I can't love it.
right.
That's the fear we have to be sending.
So the fear in stage one would be connected with what primes somebody's step in the cycle. That's really what we're looking at, just system. The fear in in stage two is I'm going to be discovered. And my greatest catastrophe of the dirty secret that I keep on the inside, that no one would want to be there for me if they really knew.
Yeah.
I feel like we just need to appreciate just how high the stakes are in that moment.
Yeah, right.
It is. The stakes are so high.
Yeah, it is. Like you feel it as we just talk about it. Like
I know.
my own body gets heavy because it's like the gig is up, right? Like this is the gig is up. You're asking me, client saying to the therapist, you're asking me to essentially tell on myself, right? And risk it all here and kind of pull back the curtain, find out the Wizard of Oz is just a, small little man who feels small in this world. And, I do these things. I want to feel powerful and I want to feel big and I want to feel strong for you and I want to show up for you like this. What I'm really scared of is you might see the man behind the curtain and not love it. That gets really scary because it's like, if that doesn't go well, the gig is up. And those are high stakes. You are right.
So that's the corrective emotional experience. That's what we're talking about.
This is heavy stuff.
Yes. When you're met in that space with love and care
Ooh.
and,
There's
you
a game
know,
changer.
oftentimes I love you more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's like, what?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It is heavy. And I think there is an appreciation to have for one, I'll often say this is like the holy of holies with people. And it's a very, what I've always felt is it's a privilege. It's an honor that someone would allow me to walk through this space with them. Right. There will be
Truly.
very, very few people in their life that ever walk those walls with them, that ever sit in that spot with them. And part of the privilege of being an EFT therapist and other models, but specifically here, is we get the privilege of walking those spots with them and helping their partner be there with them. It's a massive privilege. I really don't take it lightly.
Mhm.
You're right.
So we want to take a second here and share with you all a really exciting thing happening in the world of EFT. And that is this summer's EFT Triage Conference, which is super exciting. And this year's theme is EFT bleed outs. Have I got that right?
Some version of that. It's all about ruptures. It's all about when ruptures happen in the therapy process.
Awesome.
Injuries and ruptures. Yes.
Excellent. We
Yeah.
really want to encourage all of our audience to go. This is an amazing opportunity to hear from many of the EFT trainers, some coming from around the world.
Uh-huh.
Michael and Sil will both be presenting, which is really exciting. So you'll get to not just hear us in your ears, but you can meet us face to face. It would be really fun to have you all there. Michael, can I ask you, what can our audience expect to hear from you at the EFT Triage?
Well, I'm shaping the presentation as we speak. And right now, the likelihood of following a couple across a couple of different sessions that have had the impact of addiction create trauma for both people. So it should be really a really, really fun presentation. And it's a brand new one. It's one I have not put together yet.
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
excited to unleash it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Thanks.
And then, Sil, you're going to be joining your almost lifelong friend, Zoya, out of the New York chapter for EFT, the New York community up there.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about Triage. I just want to say Lisa Palmer Olson and Janine Estes have really combined forces to bring trainers, like you said, from all over the world together to offer just an incredibly rich opportunity to have to all kinds of clinical scenarios that are the most challenging for therapists and can cause the most anxiety. So I'm excited to learn from my colleagues and also feel very privileged to be able to present, as you said, with Zoya Simakutskaya in New York, trainer in New York, who teaches extensively on sex and sexuality in EFT couples therapy. I do a lot of that teaching with Lisa Blum. So what's exciting is being able to kind of cross-train a little bit with Zoya and offer a sort of an integration of what she brings to the table, what I bring to the table, and we'll be talking about sexual trauma when a partner has a history of sexual trauma and how that can impact relational dynamics, in particular around sex, and some of the struggle spots that therapists can hit when sexual trauma kind of rears its head and becomes kind of a complicating factor in couples being able to really find their way to fulfilling sexual relationship with one another. And then also offering a pre-conference workshop with Lisa Blum, which I'm very excited about, also addressing sex and sexuality in couples therapy. So that's all in formation still, but very exciting. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm hoping listeners will join us. I think it's going to be a good time at the Flamingo in Vegas.
Awesome.
We'll be hanging out by the pool and trying not to die of heat stroke.
Yeah.
At the blackjack table.
That's
At
it.
the blackjack table, yes.
That's it.
That'll be a good time right there. You'll find me at the dollar tables. I'm not a high roller, but I love blackjack.
Well, I think it would be amazing. We don't often have opportunities to get together just to be in the same room and hang. It's not just going to be a great conference. It's going to be an amazing time to spend time with the EFT community. And if you're looking for a spot to get to know other EFTers, this is going to be a great opportunity.
That'll
I
be
hope you
amazing.
join us.
And to get exposed very directly in person to so many different trainers, people from all over the world are coming.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Be a really special event.
Yeah.
So I hope you all can join us. It's going to be an amazing experience, and we'd love to meet you in person.
For full details, make sure you check out the link in the description below, EFTtriage.com.
See you there.
As you all were talking about the horror of the fears, I was thinking at the same time something along these lines, that we know and trust that we're setting the stage for people to have an incredibly different experience in their lives, right? And we trust that we have to go through that pain and that stress and that fire to find the way through. Because if not, people will be forever beholden to these negative working models, and their lives will have a very, very low ceiling. And so we help people take these kinds of risks with their partner, and people really show their partner warts and all. This is where the silly stuff that tends to be very practical and set the cycle off, it just does not take hold the same way, right? Because the level of security and trust has been changed immensely.
It's huge.
Yeah, it is.
Mhm. This is where we really trust the model.
Yeah.
Really trust the model.
Yeah.
And that's important to say, because a lot of people, particularly folks who are like in EFT training now, their externship or core skills, they may not have taken people into stage 2 yet. You will, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to trust it if you haven't been there. It requires some reps to get used to doing this and taking couples or individuals or families into this space again and again and again, to trust that we can really heighten this kind of distress, and the outcome is going to be very profoundly positive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It can be very fertile ground for self as a therapist to get very anxious here.
For
Right?
sure.
I know that this is a little bit of a sidebar, but I'm feeling the need to name it. These processes that we're talking about really speak to the importance of doing such solid stage 1 work and really stabilizing a couple before going into stage 2, because we are amplifying vulnerability so much. Not to say that things can't, not to say that we don't go into backslides. There are, there are absolutely those moments, but we really want our couples to be pretty predictable by stage 2. And, we're going for these corrective emotional experiences, and we want to set them up for the greatest chances of being able to be responsive to each other. Can we get, sideswiped by an unexpected something? Of course.
Sure.
Attachment injuries that haven't been addressed, that we didn't know about, show up here, or, trauma can rear its head. And there are all kinds of things that can bring a backslide in, or make us slow down the process. But if we do really, really solid stage 1 work, and a couple is steady, it increases our chances of setting up these really optimal conditions for corrective emotional experiences. So I just wanted to name that. I know that's a bit of a sidebar, but it felt important
I don't think it
contextually.
is. I think that's really important what you just said. That we're super deliberate about what you just said.
Yeah.
Super deliberate, that people are really de-escalated and really stable, and they're showing that across multiple sessions. But there's very little backsliding. Not that it doesn't happen, but there's very little. It's much more predictable. The cycle isn't going to come hijack the stage 2 process or the key change events.
Yeah.
Right. And if it does, it means likely we've moved into stage 2 a little too soon, and we move back into stage 1 and clean that up a little bit, right?
Yeah, right.
Or
And the couple
organize
knows,
it.
hey, we're back into our reactive dynamic, and they're so familiar with it. We can help them get out of it very quickly and right back into the stage 2 process. It usually is not a big backslide, or a lengthy backslide is a better way of putting it.
Well, I appreciate that conversation, Bill, because we've been pretty adamant here on the EFT podcast about, like, we really want to do good work in stage 1. And when we name and feel the heaviness, the risk we really are asking people to take, it's so important to remember this is on the heels of very, very thorough stage 1 work and very stable couples. Yeah. So our kind of moving on with the next bit of the question is, we've got this thing, we know what we're looking for. We're helping people tune into, these are the kind of the trails we want to walk down with people to bring them forward to pass to their partner. How do you know, like in your sessions, and I'm sure you're not, I'm sure you don't hit a stop watch when you start your move 2 and just wait till it hits 40 minutes and then go, okay, now go. But how do you know in your body and your sessions when you've really brought them to a heightened enough place that I want to send this now? And I know that's like give me a specific answer about something that's probably very nuanced or whatnot, but I would just love your thoughts to kind of give a help framework for people.
Do you want to kick us off, Michael, on that one?
Okay. Two things immediately come to mind. So we're mentioning becoming very, very comfortable with really prolonged heightening. So we're going to continue to engage people, continue to kind of, mine that moment by bringing people deeply, 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 deeply into the experience that has been emerging around the pain of these working models and the fears that come along with them. And we'll pay attention to some of the more traditional nonverbals, looking for how affect is being expressed. Is there kind of a different coloration in tone? Are people slowed down into the process? Are there tears? Is that chin going? We can see the embodied experience of emotion. The other thing that I just want to offer, which is a simple thing, but probably important, is we know our clients really well by this point. The majority of the psychotherapy has happened. We're about 70% in. So we understand when they are heightened what that looks like. And we may have a sense, there may be further that we need to keep leaning in and put the foot harder on the accelerator to really engage them because we trust that people can go so far, but if they hold back, there's a part of them that knows, I really haven't shown you warts and all. And yeah, you could catch this piece if you see this part of me, but if I don't talk about this other part, I'll always hold this fear that if I really showed you everything, you might not really receive me. So we want to kind of go a bit overboard in this. So we know our clients, we understand and have experienced them becoming emotional so many times in stage 1. Now we're really leaning into this over and over to fully immerse them in that. And the other experience we have is our own internal emotional experience, is my resonance saying, okay, this person is really at the edge. This is really this place they're really feeling their fears. They're really having a hard time. And one of the key moments I've noticed, particularly when we are asking people for their attachment needs to be met, and what we're specifically asking for here, folks, is when people are feeling, like I said, the agony of their Pandora's box, we're asking them to ask for a need for some form of comfort and reassurance when this horrific experience of self or other is really online, right? And people will finally get to the point, we used to, what we call it, the step 7 of asking for the attachment needs to be met, and say, so what would you need right now from your partner to feel loved or to feel okay, whatever that might be, it's appropriate for the moment. And they'll tell us, and they tell us in a headline. They don't give us like 3 paragraphs. If they give us 3 paragraphs, they're processing very cortically, but they will just say, I just need to be held. I need to know that you will stay with me. You will not leave if I show you this. And then we turn and say, first it's a headline. That's really important. That tells us they are much more in their limbic space. And then we say, okay, could you turn and tell your partner? Could you ask your partner? What often happens at that moment is deer in the headlights, because there is the crisis moment that could happen. This could go super poorly. Like this is the holy you-know-what moment. I could take this leap and just crash to the ground. So it's not unusual to see people, whoa, this is getting very real, right? And then they ask, and then there's the moment the partner catches them when they've taken the leap. We'll talk about that next time. But I notice that people's asking for those needs to be met is very concise. It's a headline. It's coming from their gut, their heart, their limbic system. It's not like a long explanation of what would feel okay. That's very cortical. It tells me they're not all that. They're not where I would want them to be to take that risk. See people freeze because I can tell the fear is up and running. Now our toes are over the edge of the cliff and we're about to jump, and this could be very scary. And we really, really know our clients well now. We've them so often. We know what when their emotional feels like, and we can help them really move into a very heightened place. And something the 3 of us talked about earlier is, even though these are called key change events, they're not one and done events. These therapeutic processes that we repeat these enactments across sessions, right? we'll work exclusively as much as we can with one partner in, let's say, withdrawer engagement, or the other in pursuer softening. And so we have multiple enactments like this, but we want to keep taking them further and further and further.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sil.
I just wanted to add, I love how you were speaking to this, Michael, and so much of it is, leveraging how we know our clients to be. We've logged a lot of time by the time we're in stage 2. I was finding myself reflecting on some of the challenges of doing, not that it's impossible by any stretch, but some of the challenges of doing this on Zoom. Because I know, and I do this myself, I do have some filters, on my Zoom that make my complexion look a little better. Hide the bag under my eyes.
Try that.
Yeah, like, wow.
So I have them. I have
True confessions.
Yeah.
True confessions. That's right.
True confessions of an EFT trainer.
That's right.
Keep her skin so clear.
I think you were thinking we were going to be like, us too. We totally. Yeah.
We're
Nope.
like, huh?
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
But what, and actually a lot of people have it.
I'm pretty sure. I'm
now,
thinking now,
everyone's
I'm
going to be
I'm guessing
checking out their Zoom
everybody's
filters
doing
now. Exactly. But a lot of people have them. But what it means is when you're doing stage 2, you can't see the flush of the skin. You can't see like literally the carotid artery pulsing.
That's true.
When you bring people into fear.
Wow, I've never thought about that. Now you get me thinking
Absolutely.
about it because my whole practice is on Zoom. And so
Yeah.
you got me thinking, we're moving into stage 2, y'all. Take your filters off.
That's right. I have asked people to take their filters off because the way I learned this is I was doing this work and the partner said, "Oh, I see you're crying." I couldn't see the tears.
Wow.
The wetness on the face
Was
was
being
being
filtered off.
filtered out.
But the question is, do you take your filters off?
Nope.
But I'm now realizing what
Not
you
good.
might have been doing unintentionally is just continuing to crank the volume up well beyond what you even might have, because you're like, where is it? Where is it? And she's just weeping. And you're like, no, we got to keep going. It's just a filter.
Meanwhile, they're like flushed and
Best therapist ever.
pulsing.
Yeah.
Spit and snot everywhere.
Wow. This is actually, this would be super valuable for so many people to hear that, because I had no
Great.
idea that could happen. I had no
Yeah.
idea about these things. And I'm going to have to start saying like, hey, I really need to be able to see like I do, because I need to see some body cues to know it's heightened
That's
enough.
right.
And it
Yeah.
is. There's a
Right.
massive disadvantage when you're on Zoom.
That's right. Yeah.
The advantage always for Zoom is the partners in the room, right? That's the thing that we want them to turn to anyways, but it is. There's a lot more work. You are looking at eyeballs and like chins, and that's all. You get a face, and then everything else is generally invisible. So you might not see their, that knock, 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 knock on their foot going.
That's right. That's exactly right. So yeah, those are some workarounds that we have to do with
That's
Zoom.
really important.
Yeah.
Thanks for naming that.
It makes me
Yeah.
think I had this couple, and it was heightening. It was a heterosexual couple, and I was heightening the husband. And the wife said to me, "He's digging his fingernails into his arm," right? And he was just holding on for dear life.
Wow.
But I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was very grateful she
Huge.
said something.
Yes. And I think about the couples where they're regulating, by
Right.
touching pulse points or something. We miss all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true.
Wringing
Great
hands.
point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's huge. And it is part of answering the question of like, if you're in the room with someone, you're looking head to toe,
That's right.
right? Watching those signs of that anxiety getting higher and higher and higher, and see how
That's
people are
right.
trying to regulate in the moment, trying to regulate themselves
That's right.
in ways that they have normally, like just even like all the fidgeting and all those things. And like, okay, something is coming alive here.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The other piece then with what you're speaking to, what you're both speaking to, is when we're doing that heightening, we absolutely want this online, activated, at a boil, but we also don't want to tip into something that's overwhelming, right? It has to be scary, but they have to be able to stay present with it. We don't want to push someone, especially when we're working with our trauma survivors, put them into like a dissociated state or something like that. So that's part of the heightening kind of skill. Bring that fear forward, activate it, heighten it, and keep them in a working zone before they tip into
Right.
something that is unbearable to them. We don't want to do that. We
Yeah.
absolutely don't.
It's where our attunement and our
Yeah,
pacing
our attunement,
come
exactly.
into play, like how much is enough.
All right.
Yeah.
But we want it to be a bona fide risk.
Yeah. So I'm going to put an impromptu question here that I think is
Oh,
important. And
good.
I'm going to put you all a bit on the spot because I didn't tell you I would ask this. I didn't know until just now. But I want to speak to the challenge of learning this and doing this level of depth psychotherapy isn't what most people come to expecting out of couples therapy and may not even be something that was taught for individual therapy for them. And
Right.
so, how do you speak to and encourage therapists that are coming into this and they're going into stage 2 and let's say they're not even going too early, right? We really have these nice stabilized couples, but they turn and they share and it's pretty easy and it's kind of falling a bit flat as we learn to do stage 2. I will say, I know my first few several stage 2 enactments, like I knew right at the moment of the enactment, I was like, oh, I don't think I got there. That is a challenge I think we face as we learn to lean into this model and learn depth psychotherapy this way. But what would you say to encourage our listeners around learning this model and learning depth psychotherapy?
Be gentle with yourself. No, I mean, there are, I guess, three things that come to mind, right? There's the alliance,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually pretty solid by the time we're here. And
Mm-hmm.
then there are some skills, which requires people to be able to stay within the heightening process and keep it alive,
Yeah.
which takes a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I would say is there is the self of the therapist. And I know we often or periodically will say, hey, it's really important for everybody to be doing their own work. Like the more we work on ourselves and the more we have allowed ourselves to go into those very, very overwhelming spaces that we carry, right? That we can walk at greater depths with the folks we're working with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really incumbent upon us. The other thing that goes along with this that is not exactly about being able to tolerate raw emotion, but well, I guess it is. I remember my mentor who he is trained in EFT, but he would not call himself an EFT therapist, but he was a tremendous human being in my world for 25 years. He said, we're essentially doing a form of like psychic surgery when we're working with people at this level. And he said, the only balm we have is we trust the partner can be available in a really soothing way. The other part of that balm is we trust that we can walk alongside them in these depths,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so there's a lot here. We could make a simple recommendation to people if they have an experience like, I think you named it experience, Michael, that we all have.
Yeah.
Like, it fell flat. It wasn't, I know that didn't go the way I wanted it to. Be taping your work. And in those moments where you see something maybe not go as far as you would like it to or not be as deep, pause your tape and think of maybe 2, 3, 4 different heightening phrases you could insert there. Practice. I mean, Sue actually told me to do that. She said, stay there, see if you can find a few more passes, because that is the essence of getting comfortable with staying there, you know?
Yeah.
Watch some other training tapes. How do people who are really, really experienced, trainers, Sue, et cetera, supervisors, how do they do that?
Yeah.
What are they doing that's maybe different than what you're doing? But you can do, as our friend and colleague, Sam Hinich says, deliberate practice here. Here's a place that I really want to kind of find this skill and expand it. So those are my thoughts. I think I'm glad you asked the question.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And thanks for normalizing. We've all had sessions where it
Yeah,
goes
my God.
flat.
Yes.
So I appreciate the normalization of that piece, and I'd love to hear Syl's thoughts as well.
Hmm. Well, so much of, Michael, what you spoke to absolutely resonates for me as well. And, I would, champion, doing your own work, seeking consultation and getting really curious about these moments. What is getting in the way for you as a therapist of going deeper? Is it, fear that, oh my gosh, is their partner really am I going to do harm? Right.
Yes.
Sometimes it's fear that we're going to make it worse. And it's hard to trust the model and trust this process. Is it, the waters that we're bringing people into are waters that are cut too close to the bone for myself? We all know a thing or two. I mean, most of us come into this profession because we ourselves have been wounded in these places. So sometimes we find ourselves guiding a process where we were like, oh man, this is the very place that I hurt too. And to take someone experientially into that means that we run their experience through us. And maybe I can't tolerate that because this is the stuff I haven't dealt with. So get curious. Am I hitting a ceiling because I'm not willing to go there myself? Right. And that can cap the depth that we go to because it cuts close to the bone. So, and sometimes it really is just learning how to do it. So being in, grabbing a colleague and saying, hey, can I practice with you, or will you practice with me? So I have a felt sense of what this feels like to be guided into this place. So sometimes in our role plays or in our play and practice sessions, people get more out of the experience of being the client than out of the therapist, just by being guided themselves.
Yeah.
So all of those things, I think, further nuance our capacity and our skill set and our awareness of how to navigate in there. So those are some of my thoughts.
No, I appreciate both your thoughts around that. I think that one thing that really has stuck with me since actually I was in grad school. We had our own clinic at my grad school. So it was awesome. We got really lucky. We didn't have to go find externships and anything like that, or internships. But we had a system where second year students brought us. We did co-therapy for a while we learned. And one of my co-therapists was a second year, really sharp therapist. But she said, "Hey, I noticed in our session today, the client brought this up and you moved away from it. I'm curious about what happened to you there." And we talked about it a bit, and it was nice. It was a good little self-therapist moment. And then I got like really shaming on myself, like, oh, like really bad. I really made a mistake and I really left her in that. And she said, actually, it's okay. These pieces aren't going anywhere. She said they're like whales. They might be able to stay under the surface for a long time, really well hidden, but we can help bring them to the surface.
I like that.
Right? I was like,
That
man,
is beautiful.
it's beautiful. And it
Wow.
gave me permission to miss something, to not always like get it right, or to move away from something unintentionally, but not that I just ruined it and I can't come back and do it again. But so if I have a session in stage 2 that does fall flat, I go, okay, like next week we're going to come back and lean into that spot again. And
There you
I'm
go.
trusting that repetition and leaning into that place and creating that safety for them to bring it forward, that part will come back forward and we'll work on it again. And so just an encouragement that we this is not a thing that if we fall flat, it's like, oh, we totally messed up. We're going to come back and keep
Totally.
working on it.
That's right.
And we're really just humanizing the reality. It takes some time.
I really appreciate the conversation, you all. We
Me
are
too.
going to have to
Likewise.
wrap up because
Okay.
we're gonna
As
run over
always.
an hour again. And
True to form.
yeah,
Yeah.
so,
This one,
that's right. We never have much to say, but it was so good to be with you all. Thanks
me too.
everybody for joining this episode again. If you want to keep up to date, make sure you like and subscribe. I want to say this before we end today. We have a YouTube channel and it's video, and there's captions on that. So for anyone who's more hearing impaired, or it's more difficult to catch just the words, if you want to be able to read along, the YouTube channel, the EFT podcast, has all it's all transcribed to make it more accessible to everyone.
Great.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll see y'all next time.
Until
See you next time.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Emotionally Focused Therapy Podcast. We hope this podcast is an encouragement to your EFT journey, bringing clarity and understanding of EFT to your work. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcast to stay up to date with each new episode. To learn more about training or supervision opportunities with Michael Barnett, go to michaelbarnettlpc.com. With Dr. Sylvina Irwin, go to drsylvinairwin.com. And with Michael Preston, go to michaelprestonlpc.com. Tune in again next time to hear more of this great conversation.